Today's show is sponsored by HomeWetBar.com. Dare to be awesome as you build the ultimate bar at your home. Head over to HomeWetBar.com to check out their selection of customizable barware and accessories, and save 20% on your order of custom engraved bourbon and whiskey glasses with the coupon code BOURBON2. We are also sponsored by Roundtable Woodworks. Roundtable features the finest artisan-crafted whiskey barrel products, and even smoking chips made from fresh bourbon barrels to give your barbecue a unique bourbon taste. Use the promo code TheBourbonShow, all one word, to get 15% off at roundtablewoodworks.com and barrelchips.com.
You're listening to the Firewater Review. This is a podcast dedicated to whiskey reviews. And on today's episode, we will be reviewing a Booker'S release, specifically Toogie's Invitation. I am Seth Brown. I'm joined as always by my co-host Aaron Cave. How are you, sir?
I'm doing amazing. How are you, Seth?
I'm doing well. I have a bourbon in hand, microphone in front of my face, and you on the other end of the line. Can't complain.
Yes, sir. So, well, I'm really looking forward to tonight. High proof, uncut, unfiltered.
You know, I've always enjoyed Booker'S, and it hasn't always gotten, well, recently, it hasn't gotten a lot of good press, I think, with the whole price increase and all of that jazz. I think probably most people know the story behind all of that. They announced that they were going to be $100, and they kind of backed off of that, and you know now it's what, like 70?
Yeah, it's 75 here in Ohio.
Yeah. So it hasn't always gotten. Well, like I said, recently it hasn't gotten good press, but up until then, you know, it was $50-$60. Sometimes you could find it on sale for $40, $45-ish. I've always enjoyed it. It's a very big bourbon, always high proof, as you mentioned, unfiltered, uncut, and it is what it is.
Delicious.
Yes. Yeah. What all info do you have on it?
Well, so as most people know, it's a Jim Beam brand bourbon, and Beam is owned by Beam Suntory. This is out of their small batch bourbon collection, so that includes Basil Hayden, Knob Creek, and Baker's as well. This is, as you mentioned, uncut, unfiltered. It is right from the barrel to the bottle. It is a small batch, so it's not a single barrel. So it is a blend of different barrels. I'll get into Toogie's, how many barrels there are in that batch, but it's I'll talk about that here in a minute. And it's aged usually somewhere between 6 and 8 years. And it's bottled usually somewhere between 121 and 130-ish proof, give or take. You know, Booker'S rye this year, the first rye release ever Booker'S ever did, was 136. So that was a little bit higher proof. But I love the story behind Booker'S and how it came to be. The story goes, Booker always snuck out, and well, I guess I wouldn't call it sneaking because he was the master distiller, but he would always go out and hand select special barrels that he would bottle and give out as holiday gifts to all of his close friends and family. And so he bottled it the way he liked it, uncut and unfiltered. And it became such a huge thing that, you know, all of his friends and family loved it. Beam kind of took note of that and said, well, let's turn this into something we can make money out of. And so it was So I got a lot of like controversial information. I heard it was introduced in 1988, but it wasn't actually introduced to the public till 1992. I don't know which one it was, one of those dates, but I think it was introduced in 1992 to the public. This one, the one we're talking about, this is the third release in 2016, and it is a Roundtable release. For the people that don't know what a Roundtable is, Booker used to get a group of like 6 to 8 people together. They would try different batches that he has blended, and they would go through and talk and just work through all the batches, and they would decide on one that's going to be that release for that Roundtable release, and they would all just go through and taste and talk and pick the best batch. So the Roundtables are always kind of the highly sought after because they're supposed to be known to be better Bookers just because it's really worked on with a whole group of people. With that said, this is actually one of the higher proofs, on the Roundtable releases. It's 129, and it's actually one of the youngest releases as well at 6 years, 4 months, and 4 days. I get a little information about the of this release on the how many different types of barrels and what rickhouses they came from. Yeah, it's kind of neat. So 13% of this barrel came from Warehouse G or Rickhouse G, and they came from the 7th floor, which was on a 9-story rickhouse. Then 11% came from Rickhouse D, and they were stored on the 4th floor. And so the first one that came from Warehouse G, the proof was 133.29. And the one that came from D was 124.1. So the next was 25% of this barrel came from Warehouse E, and it was stored on the 5th floor, and that one was at 125.8 proof. And then 7% came from Warehouse P on the 5th floor at 124.9 proof. And then 34%, so the most of this came from Warehouse H, and that was on the 7th floor. So we're getting a trend here. They're all pretty much on higher floors.
Yeah.
That one was 130.9 proof. And then the last 10% came from Warehouse F, and that was on the 6th floor at 125.4 proof. So it's kind of neat to actually see where these are stored. So they came from 6 different rickhouses blended together. But let's talk a little bit about Toogie. She was a lifelong friend of Booker and his wife Annis, and they just grew up together. I think they were high school friends. She actually helped Booker the first couple of releases of Booker's, and I know she has been on a couple of the Roundtable selections, and she was actually on this Roundtable selection. She helped out with this pick, so that's pretty cool. To actually get to be involved with something that's named after you.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, she, from what I understand, she's always been a big factor in Booker's life, and that was always said that she always had that open invitation to come over to the nose. So that's why it's named Toogie's Invitation.
Yeah, they really started naming those batches. Was it 2015?
15. Yeah, 15.
Yeah, and it started off with Big Man Small Batch, and then they had Dot's Batch and Mama and Toogie's. Toogie's was what? Was that 16?
Yeah, the third release. Yeah, third release in 2016.
Yeah, so they started naming them, and it can get kind of confusing once you go past once they started naming the releases, because what is it? There's usually 7. Is there 7 releases? 6 releases per year?
Six per year.
And So with the price increase, there was, and I never heard if they were standing by this or not when they increased the price, but they said they were going to cut the releases down to
4.
To 4. But I never heard if they were staying with the 4 and just cutting it down to like $75 per bottle. I never heard.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be interesting to know if they were going to do that.
Yeah.
Keep coming out with the same amount.
Right.
But you got to wonder if maybe the whole reasoning behind, if they were going to drop it down to 4 is maybe they are kind of running thin on their sweet spot, Booker barrels. Right. So maybe they have to cut it a little bit. I don't know. I mean, but you think Beam? How much bourbon did they produce?
Yeah.
Will they ever run short? Yeah, who knows?
Right.
But I mean, they're 24/7. They're always pumping it.
Yeah. Well, and when they announced that, and I read the original stories about that, I thought, okay, it seems like they're basically creating a supply issue by cutting it down to 4. And maybe it is. I mean, that's not really what the show is about, but I don't know. Maybe there is a supply issue, but like you said, to your point, I have a hard time believing that Beam has a shortage issue. They may have a shortage of the quote unquote honey barrels. Who knows? But I mean, that was one thing that supposedly Booker said before he passed away was, "Don't let them mess with my Booker's."
Yeah,
that was his go-to bourbon, and there was a story that he was really big on this particular bourbon and the batches that came out of it. And he when we were at the New Orleans Bourbon Festival, there was a story that Eddie Russell was telling about Booker, and they had gone, or they were hanging out together or whatever. I mean, they were all family, but not really family, is how close they were. And he had called Eddie over, and he was like, "What are you drinking?" or something like that. And "Come here, boy, sit down. And what are you drinking?" And at the time, he was drinking Rare Breed, which is a higher proof for wild turkey, but as far as barrel strength, still a relatively low proof bourbon. And Booker said, "Let me show you how to drink a man's bourbon," basically. And he was drinking Booker's, which is, probably 15 to 20 points higher in proof than what Rare Breed is. And he was just really big on that bourbon. So to me, it was kind of fun to hear those stories. But I started talking about the batch numbers before they redid the batch numbers in 2015 and started naming them, like what we're drinking tonight, the Toogie's Invitation. It's gone through a couple of iterations of how they numbered and named these batches. So I don't know if you have any info on that or not, but prior to naming them, just prior to naming them, it would be like 2013-6, which would be the 6th release of 2013. And then before that, it was way more confusing. It was, for example, C07-B7. So kind of to dissect that a little bit, if you have a bottle that starts with C, it was distilled in the Claremont distillery. Or if you have a batch that starts with B, it was distilled in the Boston distillery, which there is a Boston, Kentucky. It's not Boston, Massachusetts. But it was distilled in the case of the very first Booker's Roundtable, it was C07-B7. So that would have been distilled in the Claremont facility in the year 2007. B is the month, so it would have been February and the 7th day. So it was a lot more confusing. You had to really kind of think about what it is that you're looking at.
That's actually still how all of the barrels, I think, are branded. At least I know, like the Knob Creek, when we went up and did the Knob Creek barrel selection, they were all still numbered just like that.
Oh, were they really?
Yeah. It has the month, the day, and, the A for whichever month, or so it's cool how they brand these when they put them down to rest. But yeah, I have a bottle I'm looking at right now. It's a C07A-12. Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah, it is neat. It is neat. And when I first got into Booker's, you knew that there were multiple batches and that it was a small batch, but I never knew up until probably 2, maybe 3 years ago that that they put out 6 batches per year. But yeah, the Roundtable, they've been doing that for a while, and I've kind of lost track of it because there for a while, that's really what I got into, were those Roundtable picks, those Roundtable releases. And for a long time, I had all of them, and I've kind of lost track. Really, this year and even some last year. For a long time, they were just doing 1 per year. And then in 2015, I think they actually had 2. And then in 16, they had 1 or 2. And then I think they've already had maybe 1 this year. I can't remember. But like I said, I've kind of lost track. There for a while, I had all of them. It was you can go on the Bourbon blog, Bourbon R blog, and there's a cheat sheet that he has for it.
He'll break it down.
Yeah. So it's he the last time he updated that, there were only 4. But I'm sitting here looking at my little stash, and I have at least 7, I guess 6. 7, something like that. I don't know. So there's definitely more nowadays, and I've lost track of it. But you can always go on the Booker's website, and they break down the story behind each batch. And if it is a Roundtable release, as you mentioned in doing the dig behind the scenes here, they list out who actually participated in those picks in a lot of cases. And in some cases they don't. It's really weird because that's what threw me off a couple of years ago, was they just mentioned in passing that it was a Roundtable pick and didn't go into any detail as to who helped pick it. And I can't remember which release that was, but it kind of threw me off. So I was scrambling to try to find it. Oh, it was No Secret. That's what it was. It was No Secret.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway.
So I wanted to ask you, do you have any kind of guess on how many barrels went into this batch? One we're drinking tonight?
I'll say 400. I have no idea.
Very close. Round 375.
Really?
So, yeah. So about 375 barrels went into this batch. So you got to think at 6 to 7 years, you're probably maybe 180-ish bottles, give or take. So each release, say 6 times a year, I mean, each release is coming out at, close to 68,000 bottles.
Yeah.
I mean, they're putting out a pretty good amount. And I mean, I can't believe they'd cut that down to, 4 times a year. But I think you might have mentioned this in a past bourbon show episode that I personally think this as well, is they might try to make this into a once yearly release and jack up the price to something that's gonna make everyone sick.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll happen. I really do. And to be completely honest, I mean, you think about things like Elmer T. Lee.
Yeah, it's twice a year now.
It's twice a year, and it's gone up a couple of bucks every year retail. And I mean, to be honest, I mean, you're paying for basically a 90 proof bourbon that some people are paying $90 to $100 for on the secondary market, and it's released twice a year. And that's why they're paying for it the way they are, because it's released twice a year. And I really have to think that that's what they will do with Booker's, because you are dealing with a barrel proof bourbon. It's uncut, it's unfiltered.
It's a special bourbon. It's good.
Yeah.
And it's special, and they know it.
Yep. So I mean, I have to think that over the next 2 to 3 years, that if the bourbon trend continues to go on the path that it's gone on, that they will continue to cut down the batches, maybe one every year or so, and then continue to up the price until you're looking at that $100 a bottle.
And to tell you the truth, there's not really anything else like it on the market. Yeah, there's higher proof bourbons. There are small batch higher proof bourbons, but there's nothing like Booker's that is on the market today,
right,
with the history. And it was funny because when we went and did that barrel pick of Knob Creek, I just asked him, I was like, so why can't you just take this barrel and dump it into the bottles, don't add water, and give it to us? And the guy was like, well, we can't do that. He goes, you're essentially dumping a single barrel Booker's then. Yeah. And I'm like, I was like, and your point is, I that's what I want. But no, that's the reason why they cut every single Knob Creek single barrel, every Knob Creek single barrel pick that you'll ever see is always going to be 120 proof, because if they bottled it at what it came out of that barrel as, that's a single barrel Booker.
Yeah,
they have to rewrite the wheel, Yeah,
and at that point they have to go get a new label for it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of unfortunate, and I actually kind of hope that's in the future. But maybe someone from Jim Beam's listen to this, and they can give me a little credit.
Yeah, but that'd be all right.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by.
Yes. So yeah, it's I could see it going that way as well, but I'm praying it doesn't. But honestly, I don't see myself buying another bottle anytime soon, especially at $75.
Yeah, and I haven't done that either. I know when it first was announced that the price was going to go up, there was one. I mean, we've reviewed a bottle from that store, the vintage store. The vintage package store. As soon as the word came out, his price went up to $100.
Oh wow!
And he blamed it on the rep, saying that he had to buy X amount of cases, and if he bought X amount of cases, it had to be this price because that's what it was going to be. And so he bought it. Well, and then after the announcement came that it was going to be $75, then he dropped his price.
Okay.
It was 74 and change, whatever it was. I mean, 75 after tax. But yeah, I mean, you saw people doing that. And, if you really think about it, you kind of know what Booker's is, what you're getting when you buy a bottle. If you're into high proof bourbons, especially high proof, uncut, unfiltered bourbons, you have a good idea what you're going to get. However, if you look at it, there's a lot of craft distilleries. I'm not knocking craft distilleries here, but they have to make money because they're not pushing out the volume that, Beam and Heaven Hill and Buffalo Trace and all of them are. So they have to charge a higher price for their bourbon to make a profit. And you can't blame a person for wanting to make a profit. I mean, that's what we're all out to do, and regardless of what our field is. But in some cases, you're paying $50, $60, $70 for craft whiskeys, not knowing what you're going to get.
Yeah, oh, exactly. I mean, and their claim to fame is, they use a better grain. Everything is, organic or, locally grown, which is good. I definitely support the locally grown and, farmed, distilled, bottled thing. But I don't know. It's just hard to dish out, $50, $60 for a bottle that's only 2 years old.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, but some of them do taste really good, and I've actually had a couple White Dogs that I would rather them just bottle the White Dog and don't even throw it in a barrel. Some of that stuff is really fantastic.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not I'm not against the small barrels by any means, but I feel like when you put them into the small barrels, it's just bad news. I just do 53, let it sit.
It costs more money for them up front.
Yeah, but
you have to think the payoff.
Product.
Right.
Yeah.
You get a better product, which yields a better payoff in the end. Yeah, I completely agree with it. I mean, you're messing with time at that point when you go with the smaller barrels. And with the 53 barrels, you kind of have a good idea, or you should have a good idea of, if you store it here, it's going to do this after a couple of years. If you store it here, it's going to do that after a couple of years. It just seems like with the smaller barrels, like I said, you're messing with time. You don't know necessarily what you're going to get.
Oh yeah, and some of them can get over. I don't even want to say oaked because it's not oaked. It's like a overly charred. It's like a smoky char. They can just, some of them just come out bad. So, but yeah, there's a reason these giants, Beam, Heaven Hill, Buffalo Trace. There's a reason they're giants. It's because they do it right.
Yeah, I think while both of us cringe at paying $75 for Booker's because we've been able to get it in the past for between 45 and 55, 60-ish, I think in a roundabout way we've almost kind of justified spending that.
Yeah, but I'm good. I'm stocked up for a while, so I won't be buying another bottle of Booker's probably for a couple years, but hopefully maybe the price will come down. I don't know. I got lucky when I heard about the price hike. I was one of those people that thought about maybe going out and buying cases upon cases, but I was like, I'm not going to do that. But I went to one of my frequent stores in Kentucky, and they had it on sale at $40 a bottle. And I asked the manager, I said, hey, can I buy a case? And he was like, yeah, you can buy a case. So I bought a case at $40 a bottle. So I was happy with that. Yeah,
Why not do it when you can?
Yeah, and that'll last me for a while. And and there's always my cherished Knob Creek single barrel. So I'm not too worried.
You shouldn't be. Yeah, I when that all of that happened, I thought about the same thing, and I've never seen it cheaper that I can recall anyway in the Atlanta area for less than like $50. It usually was around 55, almost always around 55, regardless of where you went. And when they announced the price increase, I kind of assessed what I have and thought, do I need to go pick up another one? Well, no, I don't need to pick up another one. Do I want to? Sure, of course I want to, but I have 13 other bottles of Booker's. I don't need another bottle of Booker's, especially if you get into, if anybody's like that one store vintage had already raised its prices. I'm not paying that for the same thing that I bought for $15, $20 cheaper 2 days before. So anyway.
I hear you on that. Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, anything else to add to it?
No, I think we're good. 375 the barrels that went in. So do some tasting.
Let's do it.
All right.
We're going to hop into a quick break, and when we come back, we will share our notes. All right, welcome back, everyone. And the break, Aaron and I have been sipping on some Booker's and discussing bourbon. Lots and lots of bourbon. So as usual, do you want to kick it off, sir?
I do. And you say sipping bourbon, and you know, we were talking about this at the break. I just opened this bottle last night and took a small pour just last night, just to kind of just get a gauge on it and let it open up a little bit. And I actually had to send Seth a picture of the bottle, because it's right now it's sitting right at the top of the Toogie's invitation tag. That's a lot of bourbon to be had in one night, especially at 129 at this proof. So this review might who knows which way it's going to go, but it's it's going to be a good one. So
I got a very good laugh out of you sending me that picture. And just to, before you get into it, I just took another healthy pour out of it. I probably have 2.5, 3 ounces in my glass, I guess. And I am, let me pull up your picture real quick. I may be close to where you are now. This is boring radio. Oh, no, you're still ahead of me a little bit. Just a little bit. You're still ahead of me. Okay.
Well, you have to check out the one I just posted on Instagram. That one's a little bit lower too.
Nice.
So, yeah. Hey, I don't have to work tomorrow, so
there you go.
Yeah,
I do.
So
Damn
no.
it.
Oh no. All right. Well, to start off, the nose on this super sweet coming out. It's at such a young age, at the 6-year, 4-month mark. It brings a lot of that really sweet young bourbon out. A lot of vanilla, a lot of caramel, a little bit of butterscotch on it. Just some nice hints of cinnamon, a little pepper, and I get a little bit of like a nice dry smoky oak to it, and right at the end, you get that Booker'S and Knob Creek nuttiness that's in all of them.
Yeah,
and on the palate, like I was saying, this one, it's one of the youngest Booker'S out there, and it kind of shows. It's a little rough to start. There's just a little bit of alcohol, but if you let it sit, the alcohol fades. But to start off, you do get a little bit of that sweet corn, almost like a cereal taste to it. And then it's tons of caramel up front. You got that butterscotch again. Almost get like a little bit of a buttery buttercream to it, with a little bit of maple syrup, black pepper. I definitely get the black pepper and the cinnamon that comes through kind of mid palate, and then at the end, just I still get that dry oak with just a hint of tobacco, not a ton, just a little hint. And the finish, as you would guess, with the Booker'S, it's long, it's hot. It lets you know it's 129 proof. It sits with you, but it's a ton of just nuttiness there, and a lot of caramel, cinnamon, smoky oak I was talking about just kind of sits with you.
Yeah.
The big thing with this is, on the finish, it has all that, it's almost like a peanut brittle. It's like a sweet peanut, just sits with you. But yeah, it's a solid pick. They did great job with this. I've had better ones. I've had worse ones. It's kind of in the middle of the road for me. I give it an 88.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good score, man. I think that's a fair score.
Yeah.
And when you look at things like the 25th anniversary, now I know you have a bottle of that, but it's not open.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had it?
I have, yeah. I've had it. Actually, I went through a bottle of it.
Oh, did you? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So the 25th was one of my favorite bottles, and Jamie Ferris did a 13-year-old Knob Creek pick that the flavor profile was spot on with the 25th. I think I've told you this before.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, me and my brother had it, and we poured that, and we took a sip, and we both just kind of looked at each other like, "What?
This is it?
What are we drinking here?" And my brother was like, "Is that 25th?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's it." It's crazy because, like you said, like I was saying earlier, some of these barrels could be potential great just Booker single barrel picks, but they won't do it.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's it was phenomenal. It was spot on.
Yeah, the 25th is up there for me. I mean, it really is. And then there's, if you had to pick a Booker's, I know in the Bourbon Zeppelin, you guys have done one or two Booker's picks. I think you took part in them. And I think
I did one.
Yeah, I feel like you rated it relatively low. I can't remember what batch it was, though, what release it was. Do you remember? I
don't.
If you had to pick one, do you recall one that was lower scoring? I mean, if you were to ask me the same thing, I don't know that I could answer that. I really don't.
I'm trying to think back through the earlier ones. It might have been the Mall Mall, because I know I liked Big Man, and I know I liked the Dots a lot.
I like the Center Cut a lot.
The Center Cut was good. I might have been the Mall Mall that I just thought was just okay. I'm trying to think what was like the last couple ones in that. Because no, I really liked the Rocker. Bluegrass is really good. Yeah, it must have been the Mall Mall that I wasn't like I just thought it was okay.
Yeah. That was actually the one I accidentally picked up 2 of it because I didn't realize that I already had it.
Yeah,
I'm looking for that one, and then I picked it up and I go, oh, damn it, I already got it.
But I've never had a bad Booker's. I mean,
no.
So even if I had 2 of one of the worst Booker's I've had, I'd still be happy. So,
especially at the older price.
Yeah.
Good deal. So you went with an 88. Is that what you went with?
Yeah, 88.
Good deal. All right. So I don't think I've had quite as much out of mine as what you have. I might be still a little bit behind you.
But you should have another pour.
Well, I did right before I got into this. So it may go downhill from here. On the nose, I got a lot of caramel. For me, there were a lot of hints of burnt toffee. You mentioned the peanut brittle.
Mm-hmm.
I think of burnt toffee kind of having that same texture, that a lot of those similar flavors as peanut brittle and burnt toffee. I was getting some oak, a little bit of leather and nutmeg. Obviously it has a big nose on it. I mean, these things are big bourbons, and regardless of the batch that you get, you have to expect that. Big nose, big flavor, big finish. If you're not into big high proof bourbons, then this certainly isn't the bourbon to kick off with. But I was getting, oddly enough, there were some subtle aromas of apple and the usual nuts, the nuttiness poking through there on the nose too. But the apples kind of threw me off a little bit, but I kind of found it interesting. Gives a little depth to it. The palate, obviously it's big, it's full bodied, it's in your face, lots of spice going on up front. It's one of those bourbons that really coat your tongue. I mean, all over. And you would think with it being as spicy as it would be on the tip of your tongue. But this really was like the mid section of my tongue, the sides and everything. Kind of led me to think I was getting some saltiness to it, oddly enough. But either way, it really coated my tongue really well. There was the black pepper, the red pepper. You mentioned cinnamon. I was getting more red pepper than I was cinnamon. But those are easy to interchange, I guess, in a bourbon. And then the caramel really kind of balanced out that heat for me on the palate.
Yeah.
And then the finish, as you mentioned, of course, it is going to be long. Any Booker's you get, it's going to be a long finish. I don't care what notes you pick up, what aromas you pick up, it's going to be a long finish. It's just a big bourbon. It kicks off with a lot of those black pepper notes, those red pepper notes, but it does mellow out quite a bit the longer it goes on. I was getting a lot of the caramel and oak, And the oak tends to kind of dry out. You mentioned on the taste, the oak was kind of dry for you. I was getting that on the finish. Just the longer the finish draws out, that oak was drying out for me. Then towards the very end, I was getting some of the more sweeter flavors. It had some nice depth to it, though. I was getting those apples again that I mentioned in the nose. Those were showing back up on the finish. The leather and the tobacco, I love that in a finish. I love it. It to me, it just gives that nice. It's almost like some cigars are a little bit more spicy, and then you get like pipe tobacco that tends to be a little bit more sweeter. It's that nice balance in there that I was getting on the finish. It was leather and tobacco on the finish that just kept going for me. I really enjoyed this one, and I gave it an 89.
Oh, nice.
So that one shouldn't be hard. Should be about was it 88 and a half?
Yep. 88.5. You got it.
I did that math in my head.
Yeah.
I like all these Booker'S releases, man. Without sitting here giving a score to every one of them, I would have to think that I would be a train wreck if I tried all of them, first of all.
Yeah. Speaking of that, my brother has all of the ones from 2015 to the end of 2016. So 12 of them. And he wants to go through all of them side by side. And I'm like, we're going to die.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little interested to do it too. So we still haven't sat down in time to do that because we both gotta figure out when we gotta set the funeral dates and pick up the gravestone and all that.
Sure.
Yeah, I got a nice little sample set of getting a little off topic, but it's Blanton's straight from the barrel. I got 6 different Blanton straight from the barrels. They're all 3 ounce pours, and I've been wanting to do those all side by side. And I'm like, that's gonna be kind of a rough night, just with 6 of those. I
just don't do it the same night as you do the Booker'S.
Oh no, jeez. Oh man.
So yeah, that's something I want to get into too. Is the Blantons lineup? I think that would be fun.
Yeah,
that'd be a lot of fun.
I think I sent you a sample a while back.
Months. I've been holding on to them. to them. So I have 1 or 2 straight from the barrels.
Okay. I got another one. I got another one sitting in the box I got to send you. And, we're going to have to do that for one of the shows.
That'll be a lot of fun.
For sure.
So again, like you said, we're kind of getting off topic, but I know I've been asked probably 2 or 3 times within the last month, where do you get the Blanton's Gold? Where do you get the Blanton's straight from the barrel? You can buy them online typically at masterofmalt.com. Gold is typically always in stock. Straight from the barrel has been out of stock for some time. And just this week.
I said they had some on Saturday.
What?
Yeah, last Saturday they had some. Oh. I was gonna text you, but then it was I think 5 o'clock in the morning, so I didn't want to wake you up. Maybe I should have woke you up.
I wasn't gonna buy it right then, but maybe I would have. I don't know.
But it sells out quick, so I think I looked back at it 8 o'clock and it was gone.
Yeah, no. If it's 3 or 4, not that I'm waking up at the time making that purchase, I am a dead sleeper.
Yeah.
But there's some of them that have been discontinued now on Master of Malt that I've noticed. And then others, it's about half and half. Some have been discontinued. Others are just out of stock. But
we gotta think there's single barrels. So once they're gone, they're gone.
Right.
So I guess that would be discontinued. But if you're out of stock, how does that work? Because it's a single barrel. So once it's gone, it's
kind of what I was wondering too. Should they not all be discontinued? Don't know. Anyway,
I don't know. Who knows?
Anyway, the Booker'S. Nowadays, if you find it, I would have to think that if you want, well, I mean, you're going to find it. If you want to spend $75 on it, I would say pick it up. And most definitely pick it up if you can find it at the older pricing.
Yes. Anything between 40 and 60, grab it. Over 60, 75, I don't foresee myself buying another bottle, but it's a hard battle because these are really good, but like I said, in Knob Creek single barrel, you're getting almost the same thing plus a single barrel product, which is aged 9 years, which is 120 proof. It is watered down to 120 proof, but it is still non-chill filtered.
Right.
So and that's $45. So
yeah,
it's
potentially half the price.
Yeah, almost half the price, and it's a single barrel, like I said, and it's aged longer. So, that's a no-brainer for me. That's just
maybe we don't want people from Beam listening to this. Not that they don't know that already, but I'm sure. But
yeah, so maybe I should quit talking, right?
I think it's great info, though. I mean, really, it is. Yeah. It really is. I mean, because you have to know what you're getting into when you buy these things. I mean, they're big bourbons. Even if you go with Booker'S or Knob Creek in that case, they're big bourbons. Either way you go, they're 120 proof at least, and in Booker'S cases, they're higher. Usually between 124 and 130 ish.
There's around one. I've never seen one as low as 121, but the info I was looking at said 121 to 130, like 130, 131. So, I don't think I've ever seen one at 130, but I do know that the Off Your Rocker is 129.7. So that's probably one of the higher ones.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to know what you're getting into, and if you're not into higher proof bourbons, then I definitely would not suggest spending $75. I mean, I probably left. I think it was actually Big Man Small Batch that I left over a neighbor's house for his birthday, and I just remember them looking at the proof, and they kind of jumped back at it, like, "Oh, we can't do that," and that's been 8 months ago. I can almost promise you that I could go back over to his house and he would have the exact same amount that I left in that bottle, probably still sitting on the shelf.
You should do that and drink it.
I should. I mean, that's it. I mean, people like what they like. There's no right or wrong answer. And, do you want to spend $75 just to have Booker'S in your collection? If you got that to spend, then go for it. If you don't, and you don't drink higher proof bourbons, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just find something that, go buy 2 bottles of something and put it in your collection that that you'll drink. It's just buy what you enjoy. And I just like Booker'S. So I bought a lot of Booker'S at one point. Well, that's all I have, man. This has been a fun episode.
Yeah, it's been good. A lot of good information out there, and
I drank a lot. I think you drank a lot.
Yeah.
And we gave this an 88.5.
88.5. That's good score, so.
Yep. Well, that is it. Where can folks find you, sir?
Well, I am at Bourbon Cave on Instagram and Twitter. Don't do much Twittering, but so every once in a while I'll shoot something out there. I write for the Bourbon Zeppelin, high proof single barrel bourbons, and also write for the Sons of Winston Churchill. So, which I actually need to get on that. It's been a while since I put out anything. So, you?
Yeah, same. I have some reviews that I need to put out on Son of Winston Churchill as well. There were some things that I was sent that I need to send over to our good friend, Mr. Hassieberg, which you can find at, I think he's at Hassieberg, isn't he?
Yes.
So yeah, look him up on Facebook. Listen to me. That's the Booker'S talking. Instagram. That's where most of us do our damage, is Instagram. But you can also find the Son of Winston Churchill at, I think it's SOWC. Is that right? I'm going to have to look all this up. This is terrible plugs on my part. Anyway, just do a search for Son of Winston Churchill on Instagram. You'll find it. I myself can be found on Instagram at Seth P. Brown. I can be found at Twitter at Seth P. Brown. And I don't tweet that much either, but that's all right. You can find all of our shows at abvnetwork.com. Now you can only find me on the Firewater Review. I actually recorded my last episode of the Bourbon Show today. So as of today, actually the first, you can no longer find me on that show. Anyway, still be around the ABV networks. We appreciate your reviews, your feedback. You can find all of our shows in iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. All of those, I believe, take reviews and ratings and feedback. So please do that. We appreciate it. Oh, one more thing. YouTube. This show is now on YouTube. It's just audio, no video. Check it out. You can find us there too. So if you're sitting at your desk at work, you want to listen to an episode, check us out on YouTube. And next week, I would like to remind our listeners that we're going to take the week off. It's just a little hiatus, just a week. And we're spending some time with family and friends. And we will be back the following week with a very special episode and a very special guest. So until then, I guess we'll see you in a couple of weeks. That's it. That's all I have. We appreciate you listening and listening to us ramble, especially me. That's all. Until next time.
That's it.
Cheers.
Later.
The Firewater Review is part of the ABV network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and cheers.